Hi everyone, I'm Huiming. I'm a graduate student from Bowman Lab. Today I'd like to share my paper, Designing Nanostructure Exsolution-self-assembly in a Complex Concentrated Oxide. Complex concentrated oxide, also we call CCOs, is a new type of electroceramics. Compared with the traditional oxide, in the CCOs, multiple elements resident on one or more sublattices. So you can see in this schematic, in the CCO, they also include the high-entropy oxide and the entropy-stabilized oxide, depending on how much the configurational entropy play a role in the phase stability of the materials. So in the CCOs, we can see they have multiple cations, and each cation show different radii and electronic structures. So but all the CCOs still stay in a single phase. So in the CCO lattice, there will be more lattice strain, like lattice distortion and the defects. And all of this will very helpful to make CCOs in application of electrochemistry, especially they can be used for charge transport, charge storage, also the catalyst. In addition to their very interesting composition and the crystal structure, making nanocomposites of CCOs will further facilitate CCOs application in electrochemistry devices. Because the nanocomposite can provide the property of the anisotropic properties, multifunctions, the synergistic effects, or reinforce the role of interface and induced defects. For example, the Professor Wang's group, they developed a vertical aligned nanostructure to achieve anisotropic electric transport. They introduced nickel vertical aligned nanostructure into oxide films, and they find the in-plane conductivity is totally different than the out-of-plane. So the electronic transport pathway is totally different in these two directions. Also, Professor Lipuma group, they developed the vertical aligned nanostructure for the water splitting catalyst. They introduced a metal nanorod into the oxide thin film. At the interface, they built a heterointerface, try to facilitate to split the photogenerated electrons and holes to improve the efficiency of catalysts. Besides, a lot of researchers also work on using nanocomposites for catalysis. For example, the carbon dioxide reduction. So each component play a role in the catalyst process to achieve the synergistic catalyst or even the tandem catalyst. But the research question is how to introduce diverse and controllable nanostructures into the CCO films with post-later deposition to expanding their functionality. To solve this problem, my strategy is use the exsolution to introduce a self-assembled nanostructure. Exsolution is a process that can extract the nanostructures from solid solution in a reducing environment. In the CCO, we know there are multiple cations, and each cations show different reducibility. If we can control the exsolution extent or exsolution condition, also tune their CCO's composition, we can introduce diverse nanostructure with controllable size and morphology to maximize the functionality of CCOs. So in this work, what I want to do is to use the fixed component of CCOs and try to tune the exsolution extent to decipher the diverse nanostructure the exsolution can provide into CCO. So my hypothesis is to modifying oxygen partial pressure during the PLD of the CCOs will modulate the cations to be dissolved to introduce diverse nanostructures. So we can see the oxygen particle pressure very related to exsolution extent. As strong exsolution extent, there are more phases exhaust from the matrix. So this exhaust phases will do self-assemble growth during the thin film growth in the PLD. So to make the self-assemble of nanostructure, that is the process we call exsolution-self-assembly. To achieve this or prove this hypothesis, we try to use 3 different oxygen particle pressure during the PLD to introduce the exsolution self-assembled nanostructure, 3 millitorr, 0.15 millitorr, and 0.015 millitorr. And the CCO target or the model CCO we use is a lanthanum ferrite doped the nickel, cobalt, ruthenium, and palladium at the B set. You can see the formula here. The goal of this experiment is try to analyze the effect of oxygen particle pressure on the exsolution self-assembly nanostructures. Also, we may discuss the formation mechanisms of this nanostructure. The stem head of image and the corresponding element mapping will show very different interesting nanostructures at each thin film depth at different oxygen particle pressure. At 3 millitorr, we can see no nanostructure formed inside the films. But when the pressure drops to 0.15 millitorr, that the palladium nanorod, they get exhausted and grew through the thin film from the bottom to the top. And when the oxygen particle pressure drops by 10 times to 0.015 millitorr, we can see the Cation nanoparticle distribute inside the thin film and also on the top surface. From the element mapping, we can see the core part is the palladium and the shell part is nickel cobalt oxide. Besides, we can see between these nanoparticles, there are very interesting the percolating nanochannels. They connect the nanoparticles to form this morphology. In order to check the 3D structure of this palladium, nickel, cobalt, Cation nanoparticles, we use the atom probe tomography. Because this technique, we can see interesting 3D reconstruction of the materials and use the mass spectroscopy to identify the formulation of the shell part. So this is the APT 3D reconstruction. We can see from this this animation, the Cation nanoparticle distribute well in the whole thin films, and these are connected by the percolating channel between them. We can also see the nickel, cobalt, palladium isosurface to check their 3D structure. Use the mass spectroscopy, we do survey of several nanoparticles, and we found the shell formula of this nickel cobalt oxide is nickel 0.63, cobalt 0.37 oxygen. So the nickel takes up the higher concentration in the shell formula. We want to understand why at 0.15 millitorr, the palladium will form palladium nanorods, and at 0.015 millitorr, the thin film will show like nickel, cobalt oxide, and the palladium co-shell nanoparticles. For this palladium nanorod, we take the head of stem image to show clearly how the matrix lattice looks like, and also the atom arrangement in the palladium nanorod part. We can identify using the FFT. Then we use the geometric phase analysis to track lattice distortion of the perovskite matrix at the region overlapped with the palladium nanorod. So this is the GPA analysis. The EXX is identified by this horizontal direction or lateral direction. The EYY represents the vertical direction. That means the thin film growth direction. So from the GPA analysis of the perovskite matrix, we can see the strain in the at the matrix have a very strong tensile strain at this overlapped region with this palladium nanorod than in this horizontal direction than in the vertical direction. So that means the perovskite matrix get highly tensile stressed by the palladium nanorod in the x direction. Oppositely, the palladium nanorod will get compressed by the matrix in this x direction, way more higher than in the y direction. That means the palladium, the exhaust phases get more compressed by the matrix in the x direction. So like this schematic shows the stress from the matrix will confine the morphology or grooves of the palladium. So they may form the nanorod morphology. Besides, we also do a survey on the plan view of this palladium nanorod sample. So you can see this is the plan view TM sample. The white dots in the head of image represents the palladium nanorod tips. The white contrast part in the head image do correspond to the palladium. Besides, we find the palladium is diffusing from the grain boundary part to the palladium nanorod part. So in addition to the elastic strain, the palladium nanorod grooves also related to the availability of the palladium in surroundings. For example, the grain boundary will show the palladium segregation. They may diffuse to this palladium nanorod, so that when we see the TM image and the EDS mapping, we may didn't find the palladium exactly vertical grooves. They may just make some incline grooves, which close to the boundary where the palladium is segregated there. So both the lattice strain and the availability of the palladium contribute to the morphology of this palladium nanorod in the thin film. Then we will decipher the formation mechanism of this palladium nickel cobalt oxide core shell nanoparticles. We make a STEM head of image to track atoms inside the palladium core and the nickel cobalt oxide shell. From this head of image, you can also see the shell part are made of like 3 grains. So when we use the inverse FFT to track the location of each shell grain by using their FFT pattern and identify the FFT patterns of each shell grains and color it in the inverse FFT image. Then compare with this shell grains FFT with the palladium coarse FFT. We found the nickel cobalt oxide grains show epitaxial grooves with its corresponding palladium core surface. That means that each shell grain, they will groove epitaxially on this corresponding palladium facet. Palladium, their exsolution and grooves trigger the exsolution of nickel and cobalt to form the shell in surroundings to make the core shell structure. So the nickel cobalt exsolution nucleation grooves of the nickel cobalt oxide shell are triggered by the palladium core by the C defects. The palladium will nucleation grooves, and then in this process, the palladium will trigger exsolution of the nickel cobalt and grooves like a shell structure in surroundings. And these nanoparticles are connected by the percolating channels, which enriched by nickel and cobalt. So this percolating channel will serve as a mass transfer pathway to form the shell part. We discuss how this nanostructure affect the electric properties of the thin films. We found the ESA nanostructures may affect the mixed valence distribution of cations and affect the electric transport properties. We know the lanthan ferrite is an electronic conductor, and their conduction mechanism is based on the polaron hopping. So the proton hopping is the electron hopping with diffusion across the cations with different valence states. For example, the electrons can jump or hop across the cation 2+, like cobalt 2+ and cobalt 3+. So we introduced the different transition metal cation in this LFO system, and their nanostructure, the nanostructure may affect this cation's distribution, especially affect their valence state distribution. So we use the STEM EOs to track the valence state change of nickel and cobalt at the interface and in the thin film matrix. At the 0.15 millitour, we found the palladium nanorod. At the interface, we can see the cobalt doesn't have a very much difference of valence state change compared with the thin film matrix, but the nickel do have valence change, especially at the interface. It shows strong nickel 2+. So we can think this palladium nanorod, it will create a lot of like interface which rich with the nickel 2+ to help the electron hop. At 0.015 millitour, we can see both cobalt and nickel show the valence change at around this Cation nanoparticles compared with in the bulk region. So this distribution of these particles also affect cobalt-nickel valence change, or their mixed valence distribution, which have effect in their activation energy of hopping, also the conductivity. In this work, we use the exsolution-self-assembly to introduce different nanostructures and controllable nanostructure in the complex concentrated oxide CCOs. And we tune the exsolution extent, like oxygen partial pressure, to change the nanostructures. At 0.15 millitour, we found the palladium nanorods growing through the thin films, and the elastic energy and availability of palladium in surroundings will contribute its formation of the nanorod morphology. At 0.015 millitour, you can see the palladium, nickel, cobalt will form the palladium-nickel-cobalt oxide Cation nanoparticles. These nanoparticles are interconnected by the percolating channels. We find through the FFT analysis, the palladium's growth, the palladium exsolution growth will trigger the exsolution of the nickel cobalt to form oxide shell around the palladium to form Cation nanoparticles by the CD effect. I want to thank Bowman Lab and every team members in our group. They really helped me a lot on this work. Appreciate everyone. I really like my group. Also, I will thank Leslie in UC Riverside and Lohang in Northwestern University. Also, I appreciated the UC Irvine Materials Research Institute. They have very nice TM and X-ray characterization devices. I really go deep into my materials using this very advanced TM and XRD. Also, I appreciate all the funding agencies. Thank you for listening.